Good afternoon. It is lunchtime and the chicken box is back. How's everybody doing today? I'm your host, Kevin Impeccable Peck, along with Dr. Tony Draper. I like to say Dr. Tony Draper.
I hear you.
Tony Draper. Once you get that doctor on your name, you at least gotta say it because there's a lot of work for those two letters. So let's do it. And also my millennial friend, Miss Misha. How are you today?
I am.
Hi.
Man, we got a hot, greasy topic on the chicken box today.
Yeah.
We are talking about black people versus the Rona. But if you just tuned in, this is the chicken box where you speak your truth. Don't be a chicken. You get up on that box and you say what you got to say. This is here where you could be who it. Now, your truth might not always resonate with everybody who's listening, but that is your truth. But we're here to just dispel some stereotypes, to give some really good facts about things that are going on. And we're here to dispel the myths of the community. So grab your lunch, or if you're on the West Coast and you woke up late, grab your breakfast and your favorite beverage, and let's get right into it. Don't be a chicken. Get on the box. Again, I'm Impeccable of Gen X. Misha.
I am Misha Green, and I am representing for the millennials.
Hey, and I'm Francis Tony Draper. I'm representing for the boomers today.
Right. Because you came to the millennial crowd last time.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we popped up on your thread and you're watching for the very first time, do us a service, because when we share information, we get stronger, not only in our community, but definitely on the chicken box. So that little arrow that goes to the right, just hit the share button. Something said today may be or may not be for you, but I mean, dealing with the Rona, it is for the world. And where did the Rona come from anyway? I mean, it went from Corona, which people thought was a beer at first, to COVID, to as black people, we got a name or nickname everything. So it turned out to be the Rona. You know what I mean? It was like it was a thing separate in itself from everything else. But today, black people versus the Rona. This is our second episode. This is the chicken box. You're here live during lunchtime. And if you missed last week, it was black people versus fried chicken. Everybody had a piece of fried chicken in their mind by the time they got finished the show. Man, let's introduce our first guest. We have some people who are ready to get up on the box. Our first guest is Dr. Pam Love Manning. Pam, are you with us?
I am. Yes.
Hey, Pam, how are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Man, welcome to the chicken box. You're an old friend, but some people don't know you. Who are watching from all over the world. Why don't you just give us just a minute or two about who Dr. Pam Love is and what you got going on?
Okay. So I am a native of Baltimore. Woohoo! I am the president and founder of DP Love Enterprises, where we provide leadership consulting, training, and coaching. I'm also the author of a number of books, including being the co-author with Dr. Francis Tony Draper, the book Life Happens, But You Can Finish. And so I'm delighted to be here. Looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Pam. I thought you were going to say your other book since it was the chicken box. So,
well,
just say it. Go ahead. Get it out there.
The book is I Want My Vagina Back, which tells you I'm not afraid to take risks and speak my truth, right?
Truth.
Yes.
The author of I Want My Vagina Back. It even sounds funny when a man says it, but a man shouldn't say that word, I don't think, ever. But anyway, welcome to the chicken box.
Thank you.
Next, we have, I like to call him Dr. James Wood, but he's affectionately known as the Godfather. Dr. Wood, are you with us, my brother?
I'm definitely with you, and hello, everyone, and I'm happy to be here. And I'm also representing the boomers. I'm here in Baltimore, having been here for the last 6 months during the whole Corona outbreak. Got here for a meeting and couldn't get away. So a lot of the family came in town, so we decided to hunker down. So it's been quite the adventure as we ended up getting our bubble busted, and someone brought the coronavirus in. So I'm just happy to be sitting with you now, 2.5 weeks after the coronavirus came my way and into my family. So really want to share some of the insights I've gathered from this I'm a retired orthopedic surgeon, practicing in Baltimore for many years, ran Sinai's faculty practice. I failed retirement, and now I'm a senior director for Smith & Nephew globally, now working with their physician relations.
Well, welcome, Dr. Wood, to the Chicken Box. If you just tuned in, this is where you speak your truth. This is a lunchtime treat. The Chicken Box, if you're not watching, is a famous staple in Baltimore. It's full wings and fries. So if you're ever in the Baltimore area, ask for the Chicken Box. And again, we like to thank the Afro-American newspaper for 128 years of informing, educating, and inspiring African Americans all over the world. So let's get started breaking down some of the stereotypes. Misha Green, our millennial correspondent or host, what kind of stereotypes have you heard around this Rona?
Well, the biggest and really most unfortunate, because of the fact that we see the truth of it, was that Black people could not get coronavirus. So quick little funny story. How the Chicken Box sort of has come to be is from a lot of training that we've had through Facebook, and a lot of great organizations who have helped us along the way. And so during a training in Facebook, at Facebook, they gave us a little assignment to sort of figure out how we would launch a show. And so I was in California, one of maybe, how many Black people did I tell you guys were in the room? Like 4, including me. I think I was one of 4 Black people in the room. And they were saying, well, what news show would you do around coronavirus? And at the time, the outbreak sort of just started. We were still allowed to travel. Again, I'm traveling to California at the time. And I shared this crazy stereotype that Black people could not get COVID-19. And at the time, now, of course, I did not believe it. But at the time, there were tons of sort of fake research behind. There was tons of fake research behind it, and they were saying that COVID-19 could not survive in warm climates, and thus Black people who have sort of some sort of immune system that survives better in warm climates would then not get COVID-19. Sadly, we are dying at disproportionate rates. So that was one of the biggest stereotypes around COVID-19 surrounding Black people. We've gotten a couple of bad reps since the pandemic, such as Black people not wearing masks and not taking it seriously. Of course, we've gotten tons of bad press around Black people having cookouts and having parties and things like that. So those stereotypes have been developed from the quarantine in time of the pandemic. But the one that was so devastating to us was when tons of people were walking around thinking Black people could not get COVID-19.
Dr. Wood or Dr. Manning, did you hear any of these stereotypes early on?
Yeah, I have. I remember being at a training and a young lady said, oh, you know what? I heard that we can't get this virus. And I said, what? She said, no, Black people aren't going to, that we have a certain immunity that will prevent us from getting the virus. So I've heard a number of younger people saying that very thing. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Dr. Wood, any stereotypes that you heard?
Well, there's so much misinformation that started out with this because folks really didn't know, didn't see it, didn't have firsthand experience. And so, of course, you're always going to hope that that's the truth. You hear something like that. But of course, we're genetically so much more alike than we are different. There aren't very many differences for Blacks, whites, and others, so that our genetic makeup is not going to protect us. But what may protect us, of course, is going to be some element of immunity if we've seen the coronavirus somewhere in our travels in the past. But no one knew a whole lot about that at that point. So that whole thing, we're not going to get sick, was pretty much that whole mental game about denial. That it's the Jedi mind tricks. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is the Chicken Box. We're talking about Black people versus the Rona. We're getting down to the real truth. We're gonna get to Dr. Wood and Dr. Man. I want to call you Dr. Love Manning. because I keep saying love. Every time you see love, I mean, do you smile when you hear the word love? At least I do. Anyway, thanks for Byron, for Esther, for Tiffany, for everybody that's tuning in. Comment. Tell me what stereotypes you've heard, where you're watching from. But Dr. Draper.
Yes. So we're talking about speaking of truth. And so the research says, all of us have heard this, that Black people don't get coronavirus, or for some reason we have an immunity. But the truth is, as of this week, we continue as Black Americans to experience the highest actual COVID mortality rates across the nation. Think about it, more than twice as high as the rate for whites and Asians. Let me say it another way. So you have, and it's still, people are still dying. So 170,000 plus people have died from RONA, from coronavirus, whatever name we want to call it. If we had died at the same rate as white Americans, there would be about 20,000 Black people that would not have died from this virus. Now, one life is too many. One life is too many. So let's just keep that straight. So the myth that we don't die from coronavirus is just that. It's not only a myth, it's a lie, and we die at a higher rate. And the other myths that I've heard are, things that have been were promoted around drinking certain substances can, save you or whatever. None of that works. And I think that we also have to face the reality that if what Dr. Wood said is true, if genetically there's not much difference, then what are the social factors? What other factors are contributing to this? What are we not getting access to? Because this inaccessibility of care cuts across a lot of times even economic lines. So, and then I also heard the myth, and in fact saw it in a news article that said, okay, well, not only do Blacks not get it, but those Blacks who do get it are of a lower socioeconomic status, and that's just not true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I was on the box.
she spent her time on the box. So look, we're dispelling myths, we're dispelling stereotypes. If you just joined in for your lunchtime treat, this is the Black people versus the Rona on the chicken box. Now, I heard both of you guys have had your experience with dealing with the Rona, should we say. And I'm going to start with you, Pam, and just share your experience, a recent experience that you had actually with a medical professional.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I went to a doctor. I was very interested in focusing on nutrition, but this doctor, he was a chiropractor, but also focused on nutrition. And so I had been there for a couple of visits, and I noticed one of the times that I came in, he came from lunch, I guess, or came from outside, and he had the mask on. But this particular time that I went, it was during the morning, and I was sitting down, and I noticed he did not have on a mask. And so I turned around. So there was a white lady that came up and sat next to me. She was a younger woman, and she put her mask on after she sat next to me. And there was an older woman, white woman that sat next to me, to my right. She did not have a mask on. And so I turned around and I realized that the physician did not have his mask on. So I looked at him and I said, "No mask? How come?" And so he looked at me and said, "Well, you know what? Let me tell you, he started giving me all these statistics, and it's only a small percentage of people that die from it." And then he said, "And we need to get this virus so that we can start developing an immunity." And I said, "We need to get this virus?" And then he proceeds to tell me all the reasons why we should develop, we need to get the immunity, but also it's people who are who are obese, that tend to have more symptoms. And, so as we're walking down the steps and I'm looking at him, because I said, okay, African Americans, because he said then it's about choice. If people would make better choices, if they would choose if they would stop choosing the Twinkie and get something else. Now at this point, my blood is boiling because
this isn't an African American doctor.
It is not.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say.
No.
Yeah, really, I mean, you done bumped your head anyway for not having your mask on and saying that. But if anyway, let me get. I'm about to get on the box.
No. So you
Go
can
ahead,
imagine my blood is boiling at this point because I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, now, according to your standards, your charts, I'm obese. Okay. And African American, when you start talking about the choices that people are making, you're talking about people of color. It was clear to me. He didn't even have to say it. And I said to him, I said, first of all, African Americans, it's not always just about choice. Sometimes it's about access. And then I started talking about stress and trauma and other things that we deal with that contributes to obesity and other things. So I was furious. I was absolutely furious. One, for him to say we need to get the virus, and to me it said a lot. I thought about going back. I left there. I had some other words with him, but I left there, and there was part of me that wanted to go back to continue this dialogue. But at the same time, I really didn't think it was going to make a difference.
Right, you might not cuss no more, so you might didn't want to go.
That's right.
You might have had to cuss him out.
Right. Yes.
Sometimes those old cuss words or new ones, if they're on your mind, will still pop up. So you probably did the best thing in anger and not having a conversation. Yeah. Man, Dr. Draper, when you told me the story before Pam, how did that strike you when you heard that story?
Well, it just struck me as another mixed message that people are putting out there about whether or not to wear masks or not to wear masks. And I understand, and maybe Dr. Wood will weigh in about this herd immunity and that whole philosophy that if enough people get it, then it will be people become immune to it. But what's the cost? How many people die? How many people get sick? While you're doing that herd immunity? I think that's the issue. And I don't think anybody is indispensable. And if somebody wants to promote herd immunity and say, let's let a whole lot of people get it, it's good for you so we can reach our immunity, well, then you volunteer to get it.
Absolutely. Let me say this, because herd has not probably been heard in the Black community yet, and not in a widespread. So, Dr. Wood, can you just tell us what the herd what you've heard about this herd? Yeah, what you heard about the herd?
It's so much like anything else of these infectious diseases. The body, once it sees it, can recognize it and then start doing something to prevent it from causing severe infection. So the herd concept is if you have enough people who have been infected, then hopefully they'll have some element of immunity. How much immunity? We don't know. And so when I mentioned earlier about having seen coronavirus before, you could have seen it. You could have seen one of its cousins that could have given you some immunity on the cellular side. Right now, the immunity they're measuring, when you go in and get your antibody test, they're measuring the circulating antibodies in your system that are around for 2 or 3 months. They may or may not be specific, and they may not be absolutely protective. So, Pam, for you to walk in a doctor's office and that person not to wear a mask and somehow tell you that this is going to be how I'm addressing it, you better put up a sign and let me know ahead of time, because people's anxiety about this is so high that the doctor's offices are going in the other direction. They're doing everything in their power to have contactless interventions. We know full well this herd immunity, we're so far behind on this. We're not going to be able to get people sick and get them recovered and then have them and then think that this is going to make a huge difference. We're going to need a vaccine, a safe vaccine that we can stimulate the immune system without putting people at risk of being sick. If 80% don't have symptoms and 20% do, inside that 20% are all the folks who are finding their way to the ICU and who are really at risk. So if you take 1,000 people, you got 200 of them that are going to be really at significant risk. And they're going to be over 60, and they're going to have comorbidities. And when we think about that, we think about the African-American community, Latino community, and as Pam was alluding to earlier, talking about those comorbidities that we have for a wide variety of social determinants that lead us into being the people that are at a higher risk. So,
Absolutely.
So I don't think that if you walk in the doctor's office and they're not being respectful for distancing and protection, you should turn around and walk back out. And that conversation you're having with him, and I've seen this conversation on physician chats, and have heard this whole argument, in which I think is, if you're going to tell me as a patient before I hit the door, I'll make my own decision. Thank you very much. But I'm not a believer that that's the way we're going to go about doing this.
The other concern for me is about the health disparities, the treatment when you go to the hospital.
Absolutely.
Who wants to even go to the hospital as an African American or person of color when you hear about a lot of the disparities? And so, the other thing is, in my experience in going to this office, because I've been going for some years, that most of the clients that I saw there were elderly. So it's appalling to me that, and the woman who was sitting next to me seemed to be an elderly woman. And I'm thinking, wow, you're putting them at risk like this because you think we should get this virus? That's absurd.
Absurd.
We're gonna blast the doctor out as soon as we legally can blast the doctor out. But I think if somebody's really thinking in that way, they hadn't been thinking about it just since yesterday. They've been thinking about it for a while. And I think it's time to, you got to punch them in the eye legally sometimes to really get them together. And really, if a lot of African Americans are going there, we definitely have to say, do not support this bill. We got to get together. When we see, when you see a perpetration of a fraud, you got to just let it go. Now, this is the Chicken Box, y'all. If you just tuned in and popped in and just wanted to jump in on the conversation, it is Black people versus the RONA, COVID-19, or whatever you want to call it. Let me say one thing. Black people, when you see me, when you see your brother or sister on the street, the RONA is still real. I need you to back up. Don't try to hug me. Don't fist pump me. Don't elbow me. Let's go with the Wakanda, okay? Greet me from afar. Learn how to greet each other from afar. This thing is so real. It's so invisible. Nobody knows how it comes down. Does it come on your shoes? Is it in a bubblegum wrapper? Is it in an Now-Later? Is it at the corner store? Is it in your chicken box? I hope it's not in your chicken box. But you understand what I'm saying. Listen, don't let your guard down on this pandemic. Other countries have gotten a grip on it faster than us because they have been able to think, quarantine, and really put these practices. We're playing like it's all good. You hear some stupid governor in Georgia say you can go do whatever, and all of a sudden you back at karaoke, you back at the club, you back at the bar. All right, that was my box. Anyway,
Kevin, can I add something related to that?
Please do. Chime in, y'all. Chime in.
Black men, one of the questions that I've heard is, which death do they choose?
I choose old age, about 150 in my sleep, quietly, while my children are holding my hand.
That's the question of, do I wear the mask? Do I not wear the mask and get coronavirus, or do I get pulled out of stores or get arrested and shot because I wear the mask?
Absolutely.
And so for some black men, it's causing them to think they have to choose whether to wear the mask and risk their lives.
Misha Green, the millennials, are they getting the message of social distancing?
I think that you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
I'm good, right? Okay, yeah. No, so I definitely think that millennials overall are getting the message. We're the ones that came up with the RONA, let's be clear. But I think that unfortunately, like a lot of age groups, not just millennials, you're seeing people who are getting comfortable, people who haven't caught it, people who have been able to break out of their bubble and been safe. And so they get more comfortable and more comfortable. And that's when I see the bad decisions starting to be made. And I'm not saying, and it's not just with millennials. I do think that millennials are the ones out in Ocean City and in Miami right now and in the Ozarks making really bad decisions, and in the water without their, next to tons of people without their masks and at these parties. But I think, again, that came from a level of comfort that has been I see across the board, and that is what's most disturbing to me, is that everyone has sort of let their guard down about
Let me
this.
tell you a secret, people. A lot of times, people, when they go through things, they choose not to share what they're going through. So even if somebody could pray for you or could encourage you, you could get in a moment by yourself where your mind can go all kind of places. You know, without the people who really love you or in your are your friends and are your family are the people you should talk to during a time, not just during Corona, but during anything that you're going through. A lot of times I'll run into a lot of frat brothers and I didn't even know they were sick, or a lot of friends and they were like, man, I was near death, or, you know, but it's, and then you find out some people, they just died, and they died alone. They just went through a space where their will, and they gave up mentally, and once you give up mentally, your mind, your body, because a lot of times will follow that mental. And so I'm going on the box again. I have Dr. James Wood, which is my godfather. He is my uncle. He's been my Uncle Jimmy forever. And when I found out what he's going to share earlier, my heart was like, you know, your heart races every time your phone rings and somebody says anything about Corona. But Dr. Wood, I called you, because we always call each other, because we're both Kappa men from Morgan State University. Shout out to any of my Kappa brothers and any of my other brothers from another frat or sisters from another sorority. Shout out to you too. But Dr. Wood, when I reached out to you, I was like, man, we got to keep our mind right. And I was just so glad to talk to him, because I would have hated to just anything going the other way. And I at least didn't get a chance to speak to the person, because you can't see him now. You got to share everything online. Like this online meeting right now is like, it's the hug that I don't want, but but I have to settle for this. So Dr. Wood, share your experience, because you recently went through contracting the virus. So just please share your story of what a real life walk was for you during that time. And it's so glad to see you.
That's good. So good to be seen. It is a highly contagious virus. So as Kevin mentioned earlier, you don't know, you don't see it coming. And so what had happened in our situation was we've been bubbled, we've been sort of controlled, only immediate family and so forth. And one of our family members, my son, who travels somewhat, but every time he travels, he comes and gets a test. Had a test on the 17th of July, and that was negative. And so he came in to see us. And then over the weekend, on probably that Saturday, went in and got a haircut, socially distanced, barber wearing a mask, all that other kind of thing. Monday, he wakes up with a little scratchy throat and just not feeling 100%, but nothing terrible. Comes over with his family as they've been doing on Monday. We gather, and he leaves. And then on Wednesday, we have another little family gathering. He doesn't come. And by Thursday, he's now been sick for a couple of days with fatigue and cough. And he calls me, he goes back and gets another test, calls me on Friday and says, hey, Dad, I think my test is positive. And just that morning, I wake up with a little scratchy throat. And I'm going like, that seems, but it's an exposure. He's positive. We got exposure on Monday. We're going to go take a precaution and go get tested. So we go get a test. We get both the rapid test as well as the PCR test. Rapid test is about 80 to 85% accurate. The other, and they're both nasal tests. The one that's a little longer, the PCR test, that stands for polymerase chain reaction test, looking for RNA, one of the genetic markers. That one takes a couple of days. I'm positive. My wife is negative on the rapid test, and so I have to quarantine, and she has to wait for her results from the other test, which stayed negative. However, I got to tell you that at that point in time, I really went into a situation where you start having really bad pain in your joints and your muscles, you cough, and you feel the virus hijacking your body, and it hijacks your bodily functions. And so it starts off initially as a little bit of cough and flu, things that you can respond to with Tylenol, and then it progresses. And about 6 to 8 days, then you're at that point where your immune system has really been battling this virus, and then it comes to the point which direction are you going to go? Are you going to find yourself splitting off, heading to the hospital because you're really having a difficult time breathing and with pneumonia, or are you slowly going to start to get better? So I can't go through the whole situation there, but let me say to you, the first thing I did was develop a plan. I understood what the steps of illness are. And I'm looking at 6 to 8 to 9 days to say that's the critical turning point. Where am I at that point? I bought what's called a pulse oximeter. You can buy it from Amazon. You've got them on your phones. So you're looking at how well you're carrying oxygen in your body. So if your pulse oximeter above whatever your normal is, most people are 95, 96% saturated oxygen in their blood. When they start dropping down to 92, 91, then you're wondering, are my lungs really functioning? And when you drop it to 90 and below, you usually need some type of assistance, whether it's a rebreathing machine or even having to be put on a ventilator. But that happens over a period of 12, 24, 36 hours. I'm following my temperature, making sure that every 8 hours I know what my temperature is to make sure that it's not creeping up on me and I'm getting sicker. I have to tell you the fatigue was profound. I could sleep for 2 days just getting up to go to the bathroom and nothing else. The fatigue was overwhelming. And so I got to a point where my temperature was about 101. My cough was getting more significant, but it was a cough that I could move phlegm. It wasn't that dry hack that I couldn't get things up. And then at that point in time is when I then started taking medication. And we talked about the myths of chloroquine, the myths of Clorox, of sterilization and what have you. But what has shown to work and be helpful to shorten the course have been steroids, whether it be methylprednisolone or Decadron, to help tamp down the immune system, and then an antibiotic, a Z-Pack. Now that goes along with the zinc, the vitamin D, the Bs, the Cs, that everyone and all the folks who really sent me care packages, and some of the Ts that really help with the breathing. But at that point in time, I knew that I needed to, because I knew what the plan was, I knew that I wasn't going to let myself get so sick that they had to call an ambulance to take me in. And the other piece about that, I must tell you, is that if you had that plan, because if an ambulance takes you in, they take you to the nearest hospital. And I think we're sitting in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're blessed to have some of the world's greatest medical centers. So when I got to that point, when a decision was being made, should I go to the hospital or not, I was going to make that decision and not let it be made for me. You got to watch out, because when your temperature's going up, your oxygen level's going down, your cough is bad, and you're starting to see those changes, you're about ready to potentially fall off the cliff. And when you fall off the cliff, your immune system goes crazy. It starts attacking everything in your body. And then you're really in an emergency situation. And you can talk, a lot of people die in a very quick period of time, and they die alone. So Kevin, that comment you made about being in touch with people when they're ill, knowing what their plan is, knowing what their wishes are, have they gotten all these things in order so they can plan for what's going on? It's easy for me to be in touch every day with my doctor. There are, you can have online consultations on a pretty regular basis with nurse practitioners and others. So I think that's really an important piece. I think I'm gonna stop there and just take questions.
Man, yeah, right. Let's stop there, man, because this is a chicken box. Somebody watching it, Facebook. Yeah, there we go. There was an echo. Sometimes you're watching the stream, which is a delay that's going out to the other stream. That's the echo. If you just tuned in, this is the chicken box. This is the Black people versus the Corona, COVID. It is real. Black people can get it. Black people are getting it. Black people are dying from it. And Dr. Wood, it is so good, Uncle Jimmy, to see you there. It's people in the chat. Your cousins are in the chat. You got people who don't know you who are saying it's good to see you. Good to be there. We see you, Laura Bird. We see you, Jeanette Crozier. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. SARS SA, or I don't know, I might say it wrong, but you know what I mean. He's giving or she's giving a lot of advice of what to drink and different things. Everybody has come up with new concoctions now. You know, before when you were young, it was a Flintstone chewable. I think that was the only vitamins that you might have been getting, or the one a day, whatever it is. Does anybody? What are you guys taking right now
Well,
to
for
build
me,
your immune system?
well,
You know, we hear everything from around the world, and everybody has a concoction. What's on your list?
here's my concoction, and let me also show. So when Jimmy, your uncle Jimmy, my brother Jimmy, when he said to get one of these, pronounce it again, Jimmy.
Pulse oximeter.
Right, they cost about $30. It goes on your finger. You push the button. It gives a reading. After a few seconds, it gives a reading. And mine says 100, so I guess that's good.
That's great. Yep.
That's great. So I went on and bought one of those. But since March, so we have a millennial son. Kevin is our son, but we have a millennial son. And for months, for years, he's been saying, you need to juice, you need to juice, you need to juice, you need to juice, you need to juice. So we had all kinds of excuses about why we didn't juice, but we finally bought a juicer. So every day Misha's laughing. So every day we had this concoction, I guess we'll call it, celery and lemon and beets and turmeric and ginger and cinnamon and mangoes and berries and I don't know, everything is in this juice or my husband's in, he makes it, I just drink it. He's in the background saying cucumber and cucumbers. And so we are juicing, we're juicing now every single day. So that's what we're doing. Hopefully that's building up our immune, hoping something in that concoction is helping. Oh, and adding a little bit of protein powder too.
Absolutely. Dr. Love, what are you doing?
You know, I am staying very close to home, only going out as much as I have to. I really am keeping a mask on. But I use a patch. It's an immune patch that I use. That's been working. I had some sinus stuff going on last week, and within about 3 days, I wore that patch each day, and it really helped. But I'm also getting ready to start juicing because just to get those nutrients in.
How about what are the millennials doing over there, Misha?
Well, first of all, juicing is key. So your millennial brother was right on target for that. And I not only juice, but I'm a big smoothie person. I love just sort of the vegetable itself and kind of feeling the greens and the kale going down. I love that. But what I put in my smoothies are sea moss, fresh sea moss. My sister made some and gave it to me a few weeks ago. And so I was like trying to eat it straight at first. And then I decided to throw it in my smoothies. And so I do sea moss. And as some of you all may know, I have been a germaphobe for quite some time, way before the RONA.
Who knew?
Right. You look, I talk about it way too much for those that don't know. So I take echinacea regularly, if not every day. I also take black seed oil every day. So those are things that I was already doing. But the sea moss is a new addition, and I'm really, really loving it.
I've heard about.
Wait a minute, and our millennial, Misha, come on, you have another thing that you do, and it's not what you're drinking. Tell us how far you run is it every day you run these
I run daily, or work out daily. My knees have been crazy, so today I ran, but this is normally I now have been trying to do every other day because during quarantine my knees have been bothering me a lot. But I try to do about 5 to 6 miles. Pretty much every day. And if not, now I'm switching it up with a lot of upper body strength, trying to get that coming and working out. But working out, it is, I think, key in all of this. Just listening to Dr. Fauci, who says, he still walks every day. And that has been really inspiring to me. But again, that was something that I was doing before coronavirus, that has become so important to my routine. But I encourage any and everyone to do it. And I saw someone say probiotics. Probiotics is something that I also do every day. I do it for gut health, but I can't imagine that it doesn't help with immunity overall. Dr. Wood, is that the case, that probiotics helps with everything, or is it just gut health?
Well, it's hard. It's really hard to know. I think all of this sounds really healthy and really a good approach to trying to keep your body as tip-top shape as possible. And that's what you need. You need to have a good foundation upon which to handle any of these things. I mean, all of these have real strong proponents. I must tell you that the teas that I use, the Tulsi teas, when I was having trouble taking a deep breath, these teas were really, and I've had asthma all my life, and so I could really notice subtle changes in my breathing. And I thought the teas really did a wonderful job as well. So I have to tell you that I think what you guys have been speaking about in terms of your health are really important. And I think getting a good foundation, when we think about immunity, we have to say, the immune system has to be able to recognize the virus, has to develop a robust response. The response has to be coordinated. So it's got to be a balanced response. And when the virus wins, it's when it gets discombobulated and it starts attacking in a disjointed, not coordinated fashion. And that's where we have to be very careful when they talk about this cytokine or immune storm that occurs. And that's what kills people, is when that immune storm comes into play. And that's where the steroids have proven to knock it down. But it's a timing thing. So you don't start them right away. You let the body do its thing as much as it can. But as you start finding your way going differently, I just think also we just need to really hold each other's hand. So if you know somebody who gets sick, check on them, see what they're doing, what their plan is. Get them the pulse ox. Tony, I got mine up as well. You've got the automated thermometer that you just do a light swipe and you're there, And so making sure that you're monitoring all the time and writing. And of course, what they'll say is, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing great. But if you watch that trend, if that trend starts to change, you might be heading for trouble. So you get a higher level of vigilance, because people aren't dying. People aren't going on ventilators nearly as much, because we recognize that you can heal from this. You can get into real trouble on your oxygen saturation, but still be in control and don't need to go to a ventilator. So it's really important that we really are monitoring this closely and we know when to show up so people can do something to help us.
So that gives me, I want to ask a question. So you have obviously a lot of knowledge. I mean, because of, you just do, you're a trained physician, you have a lot of knowledge, but a lot of us don't have that knowledge. What are the key questions? I mean, at what point should we be, calling the doctor, calling the clinic? I mean, trying to get this help. And what are the key questions that we should be asking, and what are the answers we should not be accepting? You know what I'm saying? And what for those of us who are lay people, and we have all kinds of things. Like Pam said she was doing something for her sinuses, and Misha said something about knees. I mean, but at what point?
So that's why you are self-monitoring with your oxygen. Okay. Are you breathing? Okay. Are you exchanging air? Okay. Do you have a fever? Are you eating? Are your bodily functions working fairly well? I mean, are all those things happening? So are you in a steady state? And so that's where the monitoring comes into place. So now you've got a fever at 101. You're an adult. Adults don't have, if fever's at 101 in a kid, okay, fine. They go to 103 and we're not too concerned with ear infections. But an adult with a 101 temp or above is really in metabolic distress. We've got to get that fever down and got to find the source. If you've got a dry cough and you're not moving secretions and you're having trouble with your oxygen, you're getting to the point where you could get your airways blocked, and then pneumonia forms behind those blocked airways. So when that's occurring and you're watching your oxygen level and your fever, you should be at the hospital. You should get a chest x-ray. If that is clear and you're still symptomatic, they may need to do a chest CT or a chest ultrasound. In other words, looking for the source. And then, because now you're headed toward trouble. And The thing about this virus is it doesn't give you a lot of time when you're really in trouble. So you got some time going along as your immune system is managing this, and you're taking Tylenol and you're treating the symptoms. But when you get to that inflection point and knowing that you're there, that's when you really seek help.
So basically,
This is really helpful, though. I think to Tony's point, when you were asking the question, I was thinking about me having a fever between March and probably June or July, running a low-grade fever. And it's interesting how we often try to self-medicate, right? Mm-hmm. As Black folks, we've got all kinds of remedies. Right? And so, I started looking at, okay, what are the possibilities? And some of that is out of fear, not, hoping that it's not corona and hoping that it's just sinus. And so you start doing things and you say, oh, it's 99. It was 99 yesterday and it's normal today. So I must be okay. And we start doing things. I mean, I use one of those facial machines with the heat.
With the mask, yep.
Right, to clean me.
Yep.
I'm better now. But, to Tony's question, I think that's important that we not be afraid and that we go to the doctors, but knowing when to go to the doctors versus self-medicating, I think is really important.
And having a plan and talking to the doctor about what do I expect in the next 24 to 48 hours? When should I call you back? Where am I right now, and when should I call you? And what should I go get and pick up? And what should I be monitoring? And who's my care partner that's working with me so that we're together? Because the other piece that I didn't mention is that my brain got foggy. I just wasn't thinking as clearly as as I normally do. And as I came out of it, I recognized just where I was at that place. So you need someone close.
This is Black people versus the Rona. We are dispelling the myths in our community. If they're not going to tell us, we are going to tell you here on the Chicken Box broadcast on the Afro newspaper or Afro Media Company's Facebook page, and also now on YouTube, and we're awaiting LinkedIn because the information is important. We need to share. If you're watching for the first time, just hit the share button. Like us if we've just popped up and you just tuning in because one of these great guests or one of these hosts. Just hit the like button. It goes a long way of sharing some information that could possibly save someone's life. I like how you said, Dr. Wood, don't wait. It's just like in your car. When the check engine light comes on, go check the engine. Don't wait for the light to stay on. Black people, we will ride with that check engine light and forever and not know. It's like going outside and seeing a nail in your tire and you think it's a slow leak, and then you get on the highway and you get a blowout. So you just can't wait. You know your body. You have to really get in tune with yourself. When you feel bad. When your stomach hurts. When your head hurts. When you're sweating too much. When you feel hot and the air conditioner is on 70 degrees. It's like, wait, I'm sweating and it's on 70. When these things are beginning to happen. We can't be like we've been in the past. We have to do better. And the one thing that I'm glad hearing all of your remedies is at least has made us more health conscious. At least has made us think about our health in a little different way. It's called a chicken box, but you don't have to have it fried. You can have it roasted. You can have it grilled. You don't have to eat the same. You don't have, right, you can grill those. I'm not going to kill us and say take away hot sauce. Now, Black people might start shooting. You take away hot sauce, but that's a whole nother show. I see Janae. I see Laura Bird. I see Portia Wood. I see Brother Craig Talley. I see Derek Lindsay. I mean, everybody is tuning in, and they're just thankful for this chicken box conversation. But this is a real life experience that Dr. Wood went through. And I had another one of my line brothers, Blair Smith, who went through early. Actually, two of my line brothers went through and quarantined home. One lived by himself. One lived with his family and moved down into the basement. And they experienced similar things. I think when, let me ask you, Dr. Wood, or does anybody know, when you have pre-existing health conditions, does it seem like it's more of a challenge to overcome a battle with COVID?
Absolutely. And I think that's where the risk is, because The reason we found out about the haircut issue is that the barber died.
Oh wow.
So that's how we knew that connection. He was a diabetic and had obesity, and so it was really frightening. And that's how we sort of closed that contact loop. So I really think it's critical that we share this information amongst ourselves, and we have a plan. So and I've had several people. I've had several physicians, and I've had my golf pro. I've had several people die with this, and they died fairly rapidly. So they got into trouble quickly.
Mm.
So the question is, you've got to be in touch. You have to be monitoring, and you have to have a plan.
So we've heard about this false positive or false negative.
False negative, right?
False negative.
Right.
Let's shed some light on false negative, because people get the test and think they okay. You know what I mean? They just, okay, I got the test, y'all. I don't have it, so now I can just, ignore all of the social distancing. I don't even have to wear my mask. Matter of fact, I'm going inside and I'm going to speak loud in the crowd with a bunch of people. What's happening with this false negative? Anybody?
Well, the false negative is you don't know it's a negative test.
Right.
So you have a negative test. So why would you go into a crowd if you had a negative test? When this virus, it can live outside. If someone is yelling, if someone is singing, if someone is coughing, if somebody's symptomatic, runny nose. I mean, the symptoms can be so benign, so routine. Blowing their nose into a handkerchief, that puts the virus out in the air. It could put it on something that you touch. So washing your hand, keeping your distance. I mean, 6 feet is 6 feet, but again, if you could do 12 feet, you'd be safer than 6. If you could be outside, you're much safer than that. Because if you're negative, then of course you have the anxiety of saying, well, someone could make me positive. So
absolutely, that anxiety is real. We had another family member who swore up and down, because look, we're in the allergy season. Your throat can get scratchy anyway. You know what I mean? Your nose can start running. You could get a fever sometimes. A lot of things could happen, but you could think yourself and worry yourself into, I have you like speaking death and not saying, the Bible says, I'm gonna bring the Bible in here, says the power of the tongue is in life or death. And a lot of people, even when you're not talking about the RONA, speak death over their whole stuff. Oh, my back always hurts. I always feel tired. My elbow always. They just continually pound themselves. You will give yourself the RONA in the mind and not even have it, and then get the relief, and it could be false negative. So what I wanted to say is, listen, it hadn't gone anywhere, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It has not gone anywhere. The vaccine is whatever the vaccine is. We don't really know where it is. And after Tuskegee and the syphilis and all that other stuff they did, and they said they need black people. If we're genetically close, you don't need no black people to test it. You test it. You know what I'm saying? You find you test it on somebody else, because we in our mind is like, nope, I'm not getting the vaccine. But then they're gonna make it mandatory, or they say they're not. But who knows what they're gonna do? But what kind of mask are you guys wearing out there? I saw Dr. Draper before when we were backstage. I don't know if anybody has these masks.
I'm in the wrong business. I should have been in the mask business. Look, I got a mask. I got a mask for every day of the week, every color, every. I got whatever mask. But here's the key thing about the mask that I want to raise up. And a lot of times people forget that the mask can also be germy. And so think about it. You take the mask, you have the mask on to cover your face, but the outside of the mask is what's, catching some of the droplets. And then we take that mask and put it down on the seat of the car or in the bottom of a purse or something, and that's getting some more germs on it. And so the masks themselves, it seems like they could be a carrier if you're not careful with the mask.
Yeah.
So I'm doing, so that's that. So I have masks, but I'm trying to, keep them. That's why I have so many, trying to keep them clean and, not rewear them. But the temptation is to throw one in the car, leave it in the car, come back the next day, get that same mask. And I know y'all already heard about mask breath, right? Y'all heard about mask bad breath?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hey,
We smell it sometimes. Yeah.
that's the self check. Hey, did you brush it? Sometimes you better brush your teeth twice if you can't stand the mask. Anyway, we did a candle blowing out test. They said if you could blow the candle out with your mask on, it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just trying to look fly with your mask, you wanted to match your outfit, you might as well just leave it off. You might as well just leave it off. So this has been the Chicken Box. We're wrapping up on the lunchtime hour. We have about 5 minutes. We said, Luciana says, the sign says it's at least 6 feet. At least. That means you can go back a little. You don't have to be all up on me in the supermarket. Get back to the sticker. You know what I mean? Come back to the sticker. You shouldn't even come in the store without a mask. Anyway, we're going to go.
Can I just add one final thing?
Yeah, I'm going to let everybody have 30 seconds on the box.
Okay.
Whatever. Now, you can get on your box, and now you're going to speak your truth. Whatever it is, everybody has 30 seconds on the box. Pam, you're on the box. Let's go. Yeah.
Wear the mask and stay away from the doctors who are not wearing the mask and from, any health professional. But very quickly, when you go to be tested, make sure that you're paying attention, that they're putting your labels on properly. I heard of someone who took his paperwork in to be tested, but he couldn't wait to get the actual test, and he ended up getting results saying he was positive. He never took the test. So make sure that you're paying attention when you go to see the medical professionals, that they're labeling your information properly.
I heard that same thing, Pam. And to all of our frontline workers, thank you for all that you do. We know that you are overworked and at this point underpaid, just like our educators are. And you are risking your life and your family's life every day. And we thank you. And sometimes people are human and they make mistakes. They don't mean to make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be checking the checker that checks the check. So you should double check your medical things and make sure. You can look, you can say they're taking your sample, your blood. Let's make sure the right sticker's on so that you don't get the call that you have it and you don't have it and you done drove yourself bananas. The hair you thought you had has now fallen out. Misha Green, 30 seconds. You're on the box.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I did not know I was going to learn so much in this episode. So thank you to everyone who has been so transparent and so open. And Dr. Wood, obviously your expertise has been so amazing. So thank you. Look, all I got to say is millennials, stop making us look bad. Put on your mask. Wear your mask always. And I think there's something cool about the mask. It's a little bit mysterious. It's protecting yourself. And as Dr. Draper showed us, it can be fashion. So rock the mask. Stay 6 feet, at least 6 feet away. Back up off me. And look, don't be afraid to call somebody out if they are too close to you. I am totally the one who has done that already at stores. That's why Instacart is my best friend. I'm off the box.
The next shirt, y'all. Back up off me. Dr. Wood, 30 seconds, you're on the box.
Let me just say that, I think the idea about testing is important. So part of your plan, if you haven't been tested, get a plan to be tested and then know what type of test you're getting. There's a new saliva test that's going to come. It's going to be a rapid test. There is the Abbott rapid test, and then there is a longer test that's going to take you from 2 to 6 days. You've got to anticipate that if you need to know right away, if you've had an exposure or something like that, put in your mind now while you haven't even thought about it, where you're going for a test, what type of test you're going to get, and plan it ahead of time. The other thing is the contact tracing. It's not absolute by any means. I mean, I've been talking to the contact tracing people. I'm telling you, I'm disappointed in what they're doing with that, but it's better than nothing. Respond to them when they call you.
Absolutely. They trace it more than that. That's why they made everybody get a cable box, which is a surveillance. They say your TV can't even have cable without the box. Really? So you can really hear everything that's going on in our house? What are we going to do? They can hear you when your phone is turned off, but that's a whole nother thing. Black people versus surveillance. They don't want to contact trace. They just want to know more information and data about us. Anyhow, Dr. Draper, you got 30 seconds. You are on the box.
All right, you were in my 30 seconds. So 30 seconds on the box. Here's what I want to say. First of all, Thank you to everybody for being on this particular show. Thank you for all who've been watching by Facebook or YouTube. Your participation has been invaluable. But let me say this, too often in the African-American community, and we didn't talk about this stereotype, we think there's some shame associated with getting sick. Whether it's a physical illness or whether it's an emotional problem, and we keep it to ourselves. And so I want to commend Jimmy for sharing your experience. Thank you, Pam, for sharing your experience. Let's not keep these things to ourselves. Let's help one another. I was really helped by the information on today. I pray that you were too. Working now on my plan. I haven't gotten tested. I'm going to get tested. And so I'm off the box.
Man, I'd like to thank everybody, JL, Sar, Dana, Laura. I can't call everybody's names who's chiming in, all the family that's looking, that's going to look at it. If you missed the first part, Pam shared a story that you got to go back and watch. This is the Chicken Box. This is the Afro-American newspaper. This is Black people versus the Rona. We're going to be breaking down a different stereotype. We got some good ones. Next week's is a doozy. I can't think of it right now what it is. I don't know if it's Black people versus the mattress. What is it next week?
Black people versus remote learning.
Black people versus, and that is what I'm going to talk about on this box. Okay, well, I'm not going to say we all. I have 6 kids now. We're a blended family. I'm the Black Brady Bunch, the Bladies. Look, you got to tell your kids to sit down somewhere because they want to do everything right now. My good friend says, sit down somewhere. If our children miss a whole year of school, they're going to be all right. They act like they can't move without going. The life that you know and that we all know has changed and pivoted. It is not worth risking. My son, my bonus son, went to Georgia Tech in the dorm. Anybody who's moved anybody in the dorm knows that nobody helps you move in the dorm. So you go to the car and to the room 250 times. A week later, his roommate is in contact with somebody who had the corona. So the roommate gets sent home. That has to quarantine for 14 days. And so he's making the decision. The school says you can come home now and get your money back for the semester, or you can stay. So being the smart new business student he was, and the food he was eating, and the rooms, if you've seen these dorm rooms, are super small, he decided to come home. Guess who moved all of the stuff back? Not the kid. I was like, nope, no, sir. So kids, sit down somewhere. Quarantine, slow down. I know you like everything fast, but you don't want the corona fast because kids are getting it as well. Kids are dying from it as well. We have the wisdom as adults, and sometimes adults, you have let these new children do everything. Put your foot down like your grandmother and your mother put down on you. And that's my time on the box. This is your host, Impeccable, the Gen X representing. We got Dr. Draper, who is also my mother, which is a real pleasure to be on, as
right. And we put our foot on you, right? That's why.
And you put your foot down. I'm telling you, we did chores and everything, and you got a spanking occasionally. Anyway, and Misha Green, our millennial, who's on mute right now, Dr. Wood and Dr. Pamela Love, thank you for sharing not only your lives and your story, because everybody does not have the courage to get up and speak their truth, but your truth sets somebody else free. So until next week at lunchtime, join us on the Chicken Box and follow, like us on Instagram, and all these likes help. I don't know what this is a like. We need to be liked. We need affection. But anyway, like us, and we are going to a new membership model. Why? Because they don't know if Corona can be given at the newsstand. Nobody's going to the newsstand, so we're going to have a membership. We're going to ship it right to you. Right to your home, and it's going to be a membership model on afro.com. 128 years of informing, inspiring, and educating. How does your phone ring through your computer? This is too much. Anyway, see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for going on, and have a great day. Be safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Back up off me.